Hey, what is up, everyone? This is Pioneer PH here near Philippines. We've got Andy and Rich with us. As always,
No.
we're going to deconstruct what Sharif has explained here. He's our head of education at NEAR. So all of you developers and blockchain entrepreneurs, we're going to discuss why you should build on NEAR. And without further ado, let's crack into this. Here we go.
Why NEAR? And again, if the slides are not transitioning or you're not seeing something, please just ping me in chat here. And also a time check would be helpful. We're about 15 minutes in. If someone could help give me a sense of exactly how long I have. I didn't ask in the beginning, I should have. NEAR is cheaper, faster, and easier to use. And I'm not going to read all of this text for you, but I'll give you a high-level sense of how we're thinking about this from a development perspective. If you want to learn how to build a blockchain DApp, a decentralized app, you typically, for most layer one technologies where you would deploy your contract, you need to learn some new technology that's specific to that system. A custom programming language, that has its own kind of quirks, with maybe some custom tooling or something like that that's been developed by that community. Whereas with NEAR, what we have committed to are open languages with their own robust communities. So the Rust to WASM toolchain is the most mature WASM toolchain available today, and AssemblyScript compiles to WASM is almost, it looks exactly like JavaScript and TypeScript if you're trying to learn how to build a smart contract, but you don't want to spend a lot of time learning a new language. And so for the million JavaScript and TypeScript developers on the planet, this is a very compelling opportunity to start writing smart contracts and building dApps without having to learn any new tech, really. But you learn how to think about blockchain applications, and you learn how to express your ideas that work in dApps, decentralized apps, without having the overhead of learning a new language and new tooling and so on. And of course, these languages are transferable. Ultimately, you can use Rust anywhere.
All right, guys. So one advantage is it's easier to use. It's easy to onboard developers, millions of developers using open source languages, not a sophisticated one. I can compare it to, for example, if I were to meet someone from another country who speaks another language, which is maybe like Eastern European or maybe Japanese or Korean. So if I want to get to know that person, it would be nice if I don't have to learn that person's language, because if she speaks my language, then that's okay. But if I were to learn her language, no matter how much I like her, maybe, but it requires a lot of heavy lifting when it comes to learning the language there, because you can get culture shock. You not only learn the language, but at the same time get to know the person. So you're overwhelmed, too much on your plate. But if you can already speak the same language, then it's not going to be as frictionless as possible, because you just focus on the creativity side of it. That makes sense. You guys want to comment on that?
Yeah, Sharif also mentioned that most layer one protocols, when developers want to typically build decentralized apps on their protocols, they typically have to learn a new language, new coding language, because some of them, they have their own custom languages specific to that maybe community or to that protocol, which takes time to learn. Whereas with NEAR, the languages it uses is pretty familiar. AssemblyScript, Rust, and AssemblyScript is very similar to one of the most widely used coding languages on the planet, which is JavaScript. A million people, a million developers use JavaScript, and so onboarding and the process of learning and building your dApps is very fast, faster than most, because the coding language is easier to use.
Thank you, Rich. You want to add on that?
Just like you said, Orbs, as long as you are familiar with the language and There are some similarities between the language, such as JavaScript, TypeScript, and assembly script. You don't need to learn, and it will be benefit you because it will not consume a lot of time learning. And but you still need to understand the blockchain technology and decent and how you will work on decentralized applications, of course. But but when it comes to learning the language, you it will be easy for you to create and build on here.
Ayun, galing. Madali lang pala, no? Okay. Sunod tayo sa another feature. Let's play.
So in that sense, from a development perspective, there's a very compelling story here. It is cheaper and faster and easier to get started with Near. And then in terms of production, when you deploy your application, the transactions themselves are many orders of magnitude cheaper than the status quo, essentially Ethereum in this sense. This is the only game in town. And so if you're talking about high prices for transaction fees, if you've been doing any kind of trading over the last several months, DeFi story, that whole scene, you've probably noticed that the fees are actually quite high. And those are 10x, 100x, thousands x lower on Near, depending on the kinds of transactions that you're conducting. And of course, it's very snappy, very fast, 1 second block time with 3 second finality. So very, very quickly, you'll see that your applications respond quickly, that you have a better user experience, and they're less expensive for you to use.
Yun, mabilis, cheaper. Ano ba? Yung sabi doon, um, kasi mas bago nga siya, no? Kumbaga, ang mga earlier protocols, kasi medyo ano na siya, let's say, it was not really that planned because it should be fluid, di ba? Constant changing. But if there's a system such as maybe, the only game in town, yung Ethereum, although sikat siya ngayon, siya yung pinaka-popular na protocol. Then sa sobrang dami ng tao, minsan sobrang traffic, no? Parang tulad dun sa City of Maynila, nauna nga siya, di ba? Pero siya yung pinakasikat. Pag sinabing Pilipinas, Manila talaga. So but dahil nga nagkaroon na ng mga traffic, nagba-bottleneck, so although popular siya, medyo mahal na yung pagpunta doon. Siyempre, kung ma-traffic, di ba, yung gas fee mo rin, di ba? Gas fee, mataas din yung gas fee mo kasi primera, segunda eh. So, hindi siya ganun ka-smooth. But, tulad na sa Near, dahil ano siya, na-plano talaga, kumbaga may urban planning tulad ng BGC, no, Global City, very smooth lang, wide yung mga roads, easy to navigate, and so on and so forth. For example, yung block time sa Near, 1 second. With Ethereum, according to some sources, it's 10 to 20 seconds per block time. So that's what, a factor of what? 10? Not really good at math. Yung Bitcoin, yung pinaka-oldest of them all, is 10-minute block time. Meaning
Yes.
isang block, 10 minutes. So compared with 1 second to 10 minutes. Did you guys want to add on that?
Yeah, I can personally attest to this this claim that Near is way better and faster. Yung fees are lower because I mean I do a little trading on the side, and yung gas fees ni Ethereum are really high when you transfer. So if you're a normal everyday trader, you're not a millionaire. If you're just a normal trader, maybe here in the Philippines, yeah, the fees are, yeah, although they're relatively small compared to the amount that you're trading, medyo masakit siya if you keep, transferring from, well, siguro your one wallet to another, you have to pay the fees, and yeah, it builds up. Whereas with Near, the gas fees are a lot lower. Like for example, if transferring through Ethereum through the Ethereum blockchain might cost you maybe $5, Near maybe 0.1 or less. So that's to give you a basic comparison.
Um, just like Andy says that near is way better nga. Cheaper na siya, faster, tas easy. While Ethereum, it is not very affordable for most of the users, and it is and gas fees is the most common problem now ngayon sa mga crypto users dahil instead that you need to withdraw your funds, you need to stay it, hold it na lang dahil it's not very affordable,
Mm.
especially especially if you are a small time trader na lang. Yeah. At mas mabilis nga siya, hindi nga tulad siya ng Bitcoin. Sometimes hindi lang siya 10 minutes. It must take 1 hour depending on the amount that you will send. Yeah. Especially if you are sending 1 million pesos worth of Bitcoin. Um, maybe it will take a day, a day before you receive or to complete the transaction. Yeah. Yun lang.
Mga bigatin pala tong kasama ko, mga traders na pala to, ano? Pero just speaking from experience, tama. All right, so we're going to move to what kind of apps as a proof of concept yung pwedeng i-create ng mga entrepreneurs or mga devs dito, ano. So let's continue.
In terms of getting started, wonderful. Thanks for that private message. 30 more minutes. And so we'll certainly have time for questions. And I'm also happy to dig into some other aspects that we're not covering in the visible slides. And so how would you get started with Near? One of the simplest things you can do is visit near.dev. That's the website. And there we have about a dozen examples that you can just click through and run right from your browser, actually using Gitpod, a web-based IDE, and a Dockerized development environment. So if you want to try any one of these examples, look at their source code. Some are written in Rust, some in assembly script. You can see it in the little blue tags at the bottom, which is which. These examples are well documented and instructive for you. So that's one of the fastest ways to get started. If you want to see like, what does a DApp even look like? How do I even use one? You're talking about less than a minute to check these out. You can also build
Okay, I think we got delayed for like a couple of seconds. So yeah, I'm gonna show you guys. We're gonna navigate through that sample of apps now. So I'll just I'll just stop sharing, right? So ito yung mga sample, no? Kung if you're a dev at saka medyo curious ka kung ano yung itsura nun ng mga dApps or decentralized apps. So guest book, non-fungible tokens. These are actually like jargony technical terms for me. Proof of work faucet, di ba? Dito yung kung ano yung mga project dyan. Kung gusto mong maka-earn ka ng konting crypto, dyan ba?
Yes.
Research ako kanina eh. What would you like to open, guys? Anything that fancies you? Rich? Anong choice mo dito?
Maybe I will create a non-fungible or my own wallet na lang.
Your own wallet? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Example wallet.
Yeah,
Yun.
siguro I'd create an NFT as well, not fungible.
What kind of NFT?
Maybe trading cards.
Like or maybe
And you make it sarap to the paras, sarap.
maybe non-fungible sneakers.
Pero ito pala yung mga languages na nasanulat sila, no?
Yes.
Boilerplate, React, assembly script. Yan. Yan. So near.dev, ito yung URL niya. And then it will direct you to examples.near.org. Everyone, guys, dev guys, you definitely need to check this. Kailangan nyo talaga to makita. Before it's too late, the early birds catches the early worms. That's what they say. So may, oh, yun, non-fungible token. Ayan. Ito na sobrang ng ano to, sobrang Greek na to sa akin, ang Martian na to, medyo beyond my circle of gnosis, my knowledge. Pero we're getting there, at least. Diba? We're getting there. Can you guys see that? Let's, ito naman yung explain niya yung specific, if you want to create your own DApp, and then see Rich yung later, navigate with us. So 54, let's see. Okay, here we go.
You're talking about less than a minute to check these out. You can also build a new application very quickly. If you're familiar with React, they have a utility called Create React App, and so based on that, we've created Create Near App, which gives you this ability at the command line to very quickly generate an application where you have a choice of the front end and contract technology. So notice I'm not saying front end and back end. I'm saying front end and contract because the contract is effectively the enforcer of your business rules and your store of data. Although, of course, it is going to be slower and more expensive than a typical web-based database or Postgres or MySQL or whatever sort of backend you want to use, MongoDB, something like that. Blockchain in general is going to be slower and more expensive to use, but you get those guarantees that we talked about earlier: trust and truth and identity and money and so on. So you get to pick this front end and contract technology, and you make these combinations in order to build some kind of quickly scaffolded application that you can then base your maybe hackathon project on or your MVP on. And then once you've gotten a sense of how to build things, maybe done some market validation with a few users, then you can kind of rebuild or commit to cleaning up the scaffolding that we've given you to work in the way that you want it to work, to customize it. Also, we have if you're coming from Ethereum development, this simple cookbook that lets you quickly compare and contrast. If I do this in Ethereum, how would I do this in Near? And so hopefully that helps folks. There's links in the slides. And again, you'll have access to the slides after this talk.
Okay, that's our last stop. Rich, would you like to go to that URL on GitHub?
Okay.
Maybe explain it for us. Here we go. I'll stop hihinto ko ang aking share screen.
Can you see my screen now?
Yep.
Yes. So this is the GitHub of Near. That it is like a cookbook. You want to start building on Near, and GitHub is the best way for you to start. Getting on a GitHub in Near is the best way to start dahil nga GitHub is the first thing that you need to do. All you need to do is download the code for you to get all of these folders and files. Dahil nga yun nga, isa nga siyang cookbook, nakuha mo na siya. You're getting the front end and the back end of Near. All you need to do is ikaw na bahala kung what will be the idea of your decentralized application or DApp. Kasi ang kukunin mo lang sa GitHub is yung source code ng Near, which is sila lang yung bahala dun sa minting, ganon. Tapos sa start ng front end, kasi yun nga sa back end, just like Sheriff said, you'll see in these folders, yun, they are all source codes and templates, yun nga, nakasulat na, as yan, as yung test. So, yun.
Okay. Parang kitchen pala to, no? Kasi cookbook, tapos may template, may mga planggana na.
Yeah, tsaka ikaw na bahala what you want to cook.
Tapos yung sauce code mo, no? May sauce.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. It's just like making a spaghetti or a
Right.
pancit or a pancit canton.
Spaghetti hub. But I mean, there's a recipe that you can follow, and then if you want some variations or different flavor based on your personality, then you express yourself, right? Spaghetti hub.
Yes.
Spaghetti. Okay. Wala, gutom na to, guys. Yun na yun.
Yes.
Okay, that's it. Let's stop sharing screen for now. Thanks, Rich, for that rich explanation. Yung sauce natin very rich. Sauce code,
Kailangan po cheesy pa po siya.
kind of cheesy joke, a cheesy joke
Mm.
and corny as well. Guys, you want to check some of the use cases and application when it comes to near protocol, especially our interview with Paras founder Ricky last time. You might want to check that YouTube interview when it comes to digital art collectibles, and and he's very happy building on near. OP Games as well is building on near Outplay Games by Chase Frio. Hope we can have him on the show later on. Did you guys want to say some final thoughts before we conclude?
Uh, well, I hope they have fun with our corny jokes. Yeah. And they learn from our messages and information, especially in Sheriff's video.
Yeah, it's just education and awareness,
Mm.
But the earlier they onboard, talagang maka-benefit sila, I guess. Marami tayong mga programs sa ating mga devs. So once again, this is Orver Jam. That's Andy there in the middle part of the Philippines, and Rich in just a little north of me. So pioneers, again, we're appealing to the pioneers. Be early enough before the avalanche is taking over Mount Everest. I'm not making any sense. Okay, guys, thank you very much and have a great week. And I'll see you in the next video.